In this video, we will see 10 amazing traps in the Queen's Gambit decline. First, we will see 5 for white and then 5 for black. So let's move on to our first trap. After d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, black goes c6, and here you go e4. This is the Marshall Gambit. Black takes this pawn and then you recapture with the knight. Bishop b4 check is a common move. You block with bishop to d2, and here black goes queen takes d4. You capture his bishop. Black takes your knight and then you block with the other knight. Here, taking this pawn is dangerous because queen to d6 will lead to various attacking ideas, and white will have advantage. Therefore, he goes knight to a6 attacking the bishop. And here you shock him with bishop to f8, threatening to take the g7 pawn and hit the rook. Here the best move is knight to e7. But here if black is not careful and takes this bishop, then you can just play queen to d8, checkmate. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, d5, c4, black goes c6, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, bishop e7, preparing to castle, bishop g5, black castle here, and then you go queen to c2. Black goes h6, kicking this bishop, but here you go with this tricky move h4. Here if it doesn't take your bishop and play some things like knight c6, then you can just exchange this bishop with the knight and push these pawns and castle on the queen side to launch a king side attack. But here if it takes your bishop, then you can recapture with the h pawn, opening up this rook. Black goes knight to e4. Here you just take this knight, black recaptures, and then you recapture with the queen, threatening checkmate. But black can go g6, and here you just play queen to h4, and no matter what black does, you can play queen to h8, checkmate. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, d5, c4, black declines with c6. This is the Slav defense. You play knight c3, black goes bishop to f5, developing his bishop. You take this pawn, black recaptures, and then you go queen to b3, attacking both these pawns. Black goes queen to b6, offering a trade of queens. But here you play knight takes d5, attacking the queen. Black takes this queen, you recapture. And here you are threatening a 4 pawn c7, therefore black goes knight to a6. But here you can shock him with rook takes a6. Black recaptures, and then you go knight c7 check and regain the rook, and you are completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, takes, you go bishop g5, bishop e7, you play e3, opening up this bishop. Black castle here, you go bishop d3, c6, you go queen to c2, threatening to take this knight and then capture on h7. Black goes knight with d7, you play knight f3, rook e8, and here you just castle. Black goes h6, attacking the bishop. You go bishop f4, black goes knight to h5, trying to trade this bishop for the knight. But here you shock him with knight takes d5. If he doesn't take and capture a bishop instead, then you can recapture with the knight and you will be up a pawn. But here, most of your opponent will capture this knight, but it loses to bishop to c7, and this queen is trapped. Let's move on to our trap. After d4, d5, c4, black declines with c5. You take on d5, queen takes, and then you go knight f3. Black goes knight c6, you play e3. Black takes this pawn and you recapture with the knight. Black takes this knight, you recapture, and then black goes knight f6. You play knight c3, developing with tempo, queen d8. And here you go with this tricky move, bishop to d3. Here if it doesn't take this pawn, then you can just castle here and develop all your pieces and continue playing. But here if it takes this pawn, Then you can play bishop to b5, which is a discovered attack on the queen. And after bishop blocks, you can just take this queen and you are completely winning. Now let's look at some traps for the black pieces. After d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, white goes bishop g5, and here you go with this tricky move, knight bd7. Here white thinks that he is winning a pawn after c takes d5, e takes d5, and then knight takes d5, taking advantage of the fact that your knight is pinned to the queen, so you cannot recapture. But here you shock him with knight takes d5, sacrificing your queen. White can't do much, so he played bishop takes queen, and here you go, bishop to b4 check. Queen d2 is the only move, and then you can just take this queen, and after white recaptures, you can take his bishop. You are up a piece and completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, d5, c4, c6, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, you go e6. This is the semi-slab defense. Bishop g5, you play knight bd7, e3, and here you go, queen to a5. This is the Cambridge Springs defense. White goes bishop to d3, neglecting his bishop and preparing to castle. Here you take this pawn, and after white recaptures, you can play knight to e4, hitting this bishop and putting pressure on this built knight. Here, the best move is to move this bishop back. But here, the most common move is queen to c2, defending this knight and also attacking this knight at the same time. But after knight takes, you can just take this bishop and you are up a piece and just completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, d5, c4, you play e5. This is the element counter gambit. White takes, and then you go d4. Here, white goes knight f3, you play knight c6, knight bd2, you play queen to e7. And here, white goes g3 to develop his bishop. You play knight takes e5. If he takes back, then you can recapture with the queen, and the game is quite equal. But here, white goes knight takes d4, which is a big mistake because you can play knight to d3, checkmate. Let's move on to our next trap. After d4, d5, c4, you play e5, d takes e5, d4, and here white goes e3, trying to exchange this pawn. You play bishop to b4 checking. White blocks with the bishop, and then you go d takes e3, sacrificing your bishop. White takes this bishop, and then you take this pawn. He cannot take because his queen will be hanging. Therefore, he goes king to e2, and here you promote to a knight. He cannot take with the rook because bishop to g4 will win the queen. Therefore, he plays king to e1, defending his queen. And then you go queen to h4 check. He cannot play g3 because you can play queen to e4 check and then win the rook. Therefore, he goes king to d2, and then you go bishop to g4, attacking the queen. White goes queen to e4 check, and here you block this check with the knight. And here, all your pieces are developed. You are ready to castle on the queen side, and white's king is also very much exposed, and you will win this game easily. Let's move on to our last trap. After d4, d5, c4, e5, white takes, and then you go d4, e3, trying to exchange this pawn. You play bishop to b4 check, and here white, instead of taking this bishop, he takes the pawn. But now you can play queen to h4 check, and after g3, you can play queen to e4, hitting this pawn and also hitting this rook. White goes knight to f3, preventing both threats, and here you can go bishop to g4, and here you are putting a lot of pressure on white pieces, and you have a great position. Well, this is not the end. If you want to learn some more chess traps, then you can check out this left playlist, and if you want to learn some chess openings, then you can check out this right playlist. And if you don't want to miss more amazing videos like these, then don't forget to subscribe.